What happens when a young black boy, dismissed and humiliated by his prejudiced math teacher, takes a stand to prove his brilliance? Rashad Tate, quiet yet undeniably gifted, faces the ultimate challenge in front of a packed room of skeptical onlookers, including the very teacher who doubted his abilities. Will he buckle under the weight of expectations, or will he deliver a performance so unforgettable it silences every critic? And, most importantly, how will the truth about Rashad's extraordinary genius change the perspective of those who underestimated him? Stay with us as we dive deep into this powerful story of perseverance and triumph. It was the first day of school at Magnolia Hills Academy, a prestigious private institution nestled in an affluent Georgia suburb. Room 204 looked like any other classroom, except for one glaring detail. It was an all-white space, and 12-year-old Rashad Tate was about to become its only black student. Clutching his backpack tightly, Rashad stood nervously at the door. His dark brown eyes scanned the unfamiliar faces in the room, searching for some sign of welcome, but he found none. The teacher, Mr. Vernon Chase, motioned for him to step inside. "Class," Mr. Chase announced in a curt, almost dismissive tone, "this is Rashad Tate. He'll be joining us this year. Rashad, take a seat in the back." Rashad nodded silently and walked to an empty desk near the window. As he passed, he could hear the whispers beginning to swirl. "Is he on a scholarship?" one student murmured. "Bet he can't even afford lunch here," another snickered. "Why'd they even let him in?" Mr. Chase, adjusting his glasses, ignored the murmurs entirely. Without a word, he turned to the chalkboard and began writing a complex equation. From that very first week, Rashad knew Mr. Chase had no regard for him. It wasn't blatant. It was in the subtle ways. When Rashad raised his hand, Mr. Chase would pick another student. When he asked questions, Mr. Chase would let out an exaggerated sigh, as if Rashad's curiosity was a burden. And when he submitted assignments he knew were accurate, they often came back marked with unnecessary, almost cruel criticisms. One particularly challenging afternoon, during a lesson on quadratic equations, Rashad gathered his courage. His hand shot up. "Yes, Rashad?" Mr. Chase asked, his irritation thinly veiled. I think there's a mistake in step 3, Rashad said cautiously, his voice barely above a whisper. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Mr. Chase, whose face grew red with annoyance. "And what makes you think that?" he asked coldly. "Well, if you divide by 2x here, it cancels out the—" "That's enough," Mr. Chase interrupted sharply. "Let's not pretend you know more than the teacher." Laughter rippled through the class, muffled but unmistakable. Rashad sank into his chair, his face burning with humiliation. Underneath the desk, he clenched his fists, determined not to let the tears fall. But Rashad wasn't one to back down easily. Numbers had always been his sanctuary, a place where everything made sense. At home, he would spend hours poring over advanced equations, often solving problems far beyond his grade level. His mother, a former math teacher and his greatest supporter, had always encouraged him. "You've got a gift, Rashad," she often said, her voice filled with pride. "Don't let anyone dim your light." One evening, as Rashad sat at the kitchen table struggling with his homework, his mother noticed the frustration etched across his face. "Something wrong?" she asked gently. "It's Mr. Chase," Rashad admitted. "He acts like I don't belong in his class." His mother sighed, her expression hardening. "You don't need to prove yourself to him, Rashad. Just keep doing your best. The truth always comes out." A week later, Magnolia Hills announced its annual Math League competition, a highly regarded event that pitted the brightest students against others from across the district. Mr. Chase, clipboard in hand, stood at the front of the room. "Only the top 5 students will make the team," he declared. "If you're interested, sign up after class." Rashad hesitated. He knew he had the talent, but he also knew Mr. Chase didn't believe in him. Still, he refused to let doubt hold him back. When the bell rang, he approached the desk. "I'd like to try out," Rashad said firmly. Mr. Chase raised an eyebrow, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "Are you sure about that, Tate?" "Yes," Rashad replied, his voice steady. "All right then," Mr. Chase said, his tone dripping with skepticism. "Let's see what you've got." On the day of the tryouts, Rashad came prepared. He had spent countless hours studying, memorizing formulas, and honing his mental math skills. The test was intense, designed to push students to their limits, but Rashad tackled every question with confidence and precision. When the results were finally posted, Rashad's name was at the very top of the list. He had not just passed, he had outperformed everyone. Mr. Chase's expression was hard to read. His lips were pressed tightly, and his eyes narrowed slightly, as though he was searching for a way to refute the results. But he couldn't argue with the numbers. They didn't lie. Rashad Tate was officially on the team. The day of the Math League competition arrived, and the grand auditorium buzzed with energy. Students, parents, and teachers filled the seats, their chatter echoing through the vast space. Magnolia Hills faced their fiercest rival, Crestview Academy, a school notorious for dominating the competition every year. The tension was so thick you could almost feel it in the air as the event reached its final round. The final question was announced, a daunting equation so intricate that even the judges exchanged puzzled glances. One by one, the Crestview team members took their turns, their confidence waning as they each failed to solve the problem. Now it was Rashad's turn. He stepped up to the board, his palms slightly sweaty and his heart racing like never before. The room fell into a profound silence. Every eye was on him, including those of Mr. Chase, whose expression remained unreadable. Rashad took a deep breath and focused. The numbers swirled in his mind, connecting like pieces of a puzzle. His hand moved swiftly yet purposefully as he worked through the problem, every step deliberate. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each second feeling like an eternity. Finally, he put the chalk down and stepped back. He turned to the judges, his breath held. The lead judge leaned in to examine his work carefully. The pause felt excruciating. Then, the judge straightened, a smile breaking across his face. "Correct." The word rang out across the auditorium. For a moment, there was silence, as if the room collectively held its breath. Then, an explosion of cheers erupted. The crowd was on its feet, applauding and celebrating the moment. Rashad's teammates rushed to him, their faces beaming with pride. But Rashad's eyes weren't on the crowd. They were locked on Mr. Chase. For the first time, the man who had doubted him the most looked utterly stunned. His usual stoic demeanor was gone, replaced by something almost resembling respect. Back at school, Rashad was hailed as a hero. The same classmates who had once whispered cruel remarks behind his back now treated him with admiration. Even the teachers began looking at him differently, acknowledging the brilliance that had been overlooked. But the most surprising moment came a few days later. After class, Mr. Chase called Rashad over to his desk. His usual stern tone was replaced with something softer, something almost apologetic. "I owe you an apology," Mr. Chase said, his voice lacking its usual edge. "I underestimated you, and that was wrong of me. You've proven yourself in ways I never imagined." Rashad didn't quite know how to respond. He simply nodded, offering a polite but quiet acknowledgement. As he walked away, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders, a sense of closure he hadn't realized he needed. Rashad's triumph wasn't just about solving a math problem or winning a competition. It became a pivotal moment for Magnolia Hills Academy. His story broke through barriers, challenged deep-seated stereotypes, and served as a powerful reminder that brilliance knows no boundaries. Rashad Tate proved that determination, resilience, and talent could shine through even the darkest clouds of prejudice. What do you think about this inspiring story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories just like this one.